Hi, welcome. A lot of you have been requesting me to do a tutorial on how to cover a fondant cake, so here you go guys. Let me just introduce to you first with the tools that we'll be making. So first, of course, you need a cake, a cooled cake with on a cake board. You need buttercream, could be a normal American buttercream or whichever buttercream you prefer. Offset spatula for spreading the buttercream. A turntable, or a cake turner, someone could say. I'm going to put the cake on the top of it so we can easily turn the cake. We need, of course, a rolling pin for the fondant. We need fondant smoothers. You could get this from any craft store online, or check out a craft store. And some fondant lifters. I'll tell you more about this when we come to the covering part. Okay, so first thing we do, we crumb coat the cake. The crumb coat is a term used for covering the entire cake thinly with buttercream, just to seal the crumbs on the cake. Right, so that's what we're going to do now. So first, put big blobs of your buttercream on top, and it looks a lot, but we can always take off whatever excess we have. So just spread using your offset spatula. Spread it all the way through on the top. There you go. Right, then we go to the sides. So first we apply heaps of buttercream frosting on the cake, and then later on when we smooth the cake we can always take it off, because it's easier to smooth the cake with heaps of buttercream on it than to frost the cake with very little icing. You won't get it smooth and even. That's one tip. Okay, so I'm not gonna cut this part because it's I think for beginners it's important to get this right, because not every beginner gets to ice. See, there's heaps of icing around the cake, and what we're gonna do now is just reduce the amount of icing that we have. Right, so start from the top, smooth the top. See how much icing we have left. I mean, how much icing we're taking away. You only need a very, very thin layer of buttercream on this one. Right, then we go to the sides. I'll show it this way so you can see. So put your offset spatula on a 45-degree angle. Is it shown? Cool. And then just on a 90-degree straight, hold your spatula 90 degrees up and just start scraping off that buttercream. Easy. It's just a matter of practice. You won't get it perfect the first time, of course. Nobody gets it perfect the first time, but if you know the technique, then you shouldn't have any problems. Here you go. Because sometimes you see people trying to ice a cake smoothly with buttercream frosting, and after that we go back to the top, reducing that amount of icing again. You see that crown over there? We're gonna have to remove that. So your cake starts from here. It's like scraping off like that. Okay, so it starts from here, get inside, then take off. Okay, nice, easy. Just take note of that. Your cake starts from here, not from here, not from here. Because if you start from here, it's hard to get a smooth angle, smooth edge, I mean. So your cake starts all the way here. And always clean your spatula after you scrape any icings off, just so you won't get it back into the cake. Alright, so just one final smoothing step, and just a little bit icing over this part. And that's it. That's how easy it is to crumb coat a cake. I didn't edit that part, so that's a full length of how to crumb coat a cake. It's nice and easy, very straightforward. So we'll come back, we'll set it aside, and we'll roll out the fondant for covering. Hi, welcome back. I forgot to mention earlier about the cakes that are suitable for fondant. Cakes suitable for fondant covering are pound cakes, fruit cakes, apple cakes, any cake actually that's dense and not tough, but they're sort of solid cakes which can support the weight of our fondant. Try to avoid using chiffon cakes or sponge cakes. I know you see some people use sponge cakes for covering fondant cakes, but if your cake is about this thick, then it's okay to use sponge cakes or chiffon cakes. But if it's gonna be like this thick, then you're gonna be in trouble. That's the time that you need to use dense cakes like pound cakes, fruit cakes, and all sorts of fat cakes. That's it about cake. So if you just have any questions, just message me or write a comment and I'll be glad to answer them. Alright, so I have a tutorial of how to make this one on my site, so just have a look at it if you haven't seen it yet. So I've prepared this ahead of time, and we just need to knead it just to get it smooth and pliable. Okay, I've chosen to make a wide cake just to show you guys the technique on how to cover a big cake, because if you can cover this big cake, then you can certainly cover a 6-inch, 8 or 10-inch cake easier. Dust my bench with corn flour or cornstarch before I roll my fondant. Okay. Dust the rolling pin as well. So if you need a cake this big, just measure the sides, the top part, and the other part. So you need like about a full rolling pin and a bit. So you can use a measuring tape to measure it across, but you don't need to, just use a rolling pin. So if you're making a small cake, say this big, so you always measure both of the sides and the top. It's the same thing as with any shape of cakes. You allow to have some extra, because roll your cake, roll your fondant just enough to cover your cake. You might have some wrinkles on it. I'll show you later what I mean about with that. So start rolling your fondant into your desired size. Try to aim for a circle, not square, not any kind of shape, because we're making a round cake. Just put some more cornstarch underneath to keep it from sticking. So if you notice me that whenever I roll, I keep moving my fondant just to keep it from sticking. And make sure you get it even. Just have a feel all over the cake. You'll see here it's quite high compared to the rest of it. So just spread that one, roll that one out. Right, we're almost there. If you see some air bubbles trapped, I'm not sure if you can see on the camera. Just using a normal pin, just make sure to clean it. Just prick it sideways and get rid of the air. You don't want to prick it this way because you're gonna see a big dent on it. So you prick your air bubbles on the side and then get rid of the air. Right? So I'm almost there. Okay. Now the tricky part. Covering the cake with fondant. You could use the rolling pin to get the cake up in there. You can use all sorts of methods, actually whichever works for you. Depends on the size of the cake as well. So if your cake is like wide, like larger than this, maybe this kind of diameter, it's better to use fondant lifters. Just gather your fondant up, and with the help of your friend or whoever, just put the fondant up and then transfer it on top of the cake. So that's one method is, that's second actually. So first you can use the rolling pin to transfer the cake on top. So some roll it all the way through like a rope. Some just put it like that and then carry it on top of it. And the last one I'm just gonna carry it with my arms and then transfer it on the cake. It's not too big for me. Right, so make sure it's not sticking there. Just put it on top. There you go. And always work on the sides first. Okay? I mean on the edge, because it's gonna crack first. So make sure after putting the fondant on, make sure the sides gets to be stopped first. Now this is what I'm talking about when you don't have enough room for the fondant to stretch. It's gonna wrinkle like that. If it's even shorter than that, it's gonna be like a wrinkled fondant. So what you do is just slowly work it out. Using your hands, dry hands, just slowly work the fondant out. Using your palm, just smooth the sides. It's kind of pressing it ever so slightly. Try not to leave any dent from your fingers. So now, just using the edge of my palm, just to stick the fondant on the cake. Now you don't want to press too much on the edge because it's gonna thin out. So you just want to barely touch it or lightly touch it just to make it stick. If you keep on working the edge and giving it a heavy pressure, it's gonna be thin all the way on the edge, and it's gonna be thick on the top. So you don't want that to happen to your cake. So just be gentle on it. Right. So see how much extra you need to cover a cake nicely. I forgot to mention that you need to brush a cake with liquid glucose to let it stick. I didn't do that this time because I covered it with buttercream icing, and the buttercream icing I did not let it crust up to dry up. So I leave the buttercream sort of fresh, so to speak, just to get the fondant stick on it. If it happened that your buttercream already crusted up, so you just need to apply with liquid glucose just to get your fondant stick to the cake. Now there are some people who purposely do that. They even chill the cakes so they get a nice hard surface to stick the fondant on. You can also do that if you want, but you need to brush a liquid glucose to get the fondant stick to the cake. Some cover their cakes with ganache. It's a mixture of chocolate and cream. They boil the cream and then pour the chocolate in and let it dry. Let it melt, sorry, and then they just let it cool down to room temperature, and then whip it up and then apply it to the cake. That method is actually better because it leaves the cake smoothly, and you've got a clean, nice edge. But it's more expensive than using buttercream, so you have choices there. Alright, so after you put the fondant on, just keep on smoothing the sides like I did here. So these two are essential. Always get two, because if you just bought one, you don't want to end up touching the surface that you've already smoothed out. So always buy two, so you still have one to hold the cake on with, and you still have one smoothing out the cake. Right, so always get two. So once you get that smooth, using a pizza cutter, just trim off the excess fondant. Like so. There you go. And then see how much extra fondant you need to make just to cover a cake nicely. So you really need to make extra, because you need to roll out the fondant larger than the cake. So just need this extra fondant on, wrap it with a plastic cling wrap, store it in an airtight container, and then you can use it for next time. Right, so that's how easy it is to cover a cake with fondant. So you can do whatever colors, whatever color or whatever motif your occasion will be. So these are gel-based colors. This one's from Wilton. This one's from CK Kitchen. This one's from Wilton. This one's from Chef Master. They're gel-based colors, so they're highly concentrated. So just be careful in adding some colors on your fondant. It's better to add more than, you know, you can't take it off. And just use a toothpick, dip the toothpick in and just swirl it around your fondant and then knead it until you get your desired color, right? So when coloring fondant, you have to use gel-based colors. You can't use any other colors because it just wouldn't work, right? So that's it. That's how easy it is to cover a cake in fondant, and I'm sure you'll be able to do it yourself as well. So just let me know what you think. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, just pop in any comments and I'll appreciate that. Right, I'll thank you to my sister who's filming it to this time. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, for staying up late. Thank you, have a good night.